Hello and welcome back to another episode of Best Bets. What's going on? I am Matt O'Leary, joined as always by Newsday's NFL pick columnist Joe Manniello. Joe, how are you?
Doing good, Matt. How are you?
Doing okay. It was a tough week for me last week, 0-5, which is pretty grotesque. But you had a nice week, 3-2, and creeping up on me now a little bit. So I got to snap out of this thing.
Yeah, it's a long season.
Absolutely. So, all right, we'll start with the locals. As usual, the New York Jets are playing a division rival in the Miami Dolphins. They are 9.5-point underdogs on the road in Miami. Too many points, or are we going with the Dolphins this week?
Yeah, too many points. But the line moved up to 9.5. It was 8.5 yesterday at work when we did my column.
Yeah, it's
moved up.
It's 9.5 now on FanDuel. Yep.
My luck, they'll lose by 9 now because I have 8.5 in the paper. It was 9.5 on Black Friday too. I talked myself into taking the Jets that game, as I wrote in this week's column. I kind of knew that was the wrong pick, but I was just thinking, road home underdog 9.5. Now this time, I like the Jets. I mean, I swore them off a few weeks ago, and it has nothing to do with Zach Wilson playing a great game last week. This is more about the Dolphins being banged up. They lost center Connor Williams for the year. Tyreek Hill is probably going to play, but how much? Is he going to be limited? And I just don't know if this is the same high-powered offense of Miami we've seen all season. So 9.5 sounds like a lot, and I think the Jets defense can keep it close enough to lose like 24-17 kind of game, even 24-20. I wouldn't even be shocked if the Jets won, but I just don't think it's going to be a blowout. So I think the defense keeps it close enough with Miami's injuries, and after last week's crazy loss against the Titans, it's just 9.5 is a lot, so I'll take the points.
Yeah, I'm with you. 9.5 seems like a crazy high number. I get it. Obviously, Miami's the better team. They have the significantly better record. They're home. They beat up on the Jets last time, but circumstances a little bit different this time around. And I'm with you. It's not as much about Zach Wilson coming off the great game, which is good. I hope he does it again this week. But as you mentioned, and not only is Connor Williams the center out, Teron Armstead is a maybe for this game, and they're also without their starting right guard. So I think the Jets' defensive line is going to have a really good day. We saw the Tennessee Titans have 5 sacks on Tua. I think it's going to be one of those games where the Jets are getting after the quarterback and racking up, 4+ sacks in this one. And if they are 75% the offense in the Jets in what they were in the Houston game, I think they have as crazy as it might sound, I think they have a chance to upset Miami in this game. They have the Rodgers storyline looming of, maybe he could come back against Washington. The TMZ report from earlier in the week that said that he is likely to be cleared to play against Washington. Who knows if that's true or not, but in order to keep that dream alive, they have to win this week. I think things are lining up. I'm going to take the Jets outright, 23-20. I know that's crazy. I swore off them for weeks, but one good week and I'm bought right back in. Let's do the Giants, who are now on the road in New Orleans. Tommy DeVito and the crew, 6-point underdogs going into New Orleans. That number feels too high, doesn't it?
Way too high. Yeah, a common theme the last few weeks with the Giants is the spreads have been off. Commanders, remember the Commanders were 9.5-point favorites. Giants won outright. Patriots were 3.5-point favorites. Giants went outright. Last week, Packers 6.5-point favorites. Giants went outright. The first two I got. The first two I knew. Last week I mistakenly took the Packers. I didn't think the Giants were going to stay close with them, but bad call by me. But this week I smell it again, and it's not the chicken cutlets. I smell it. It's a bad spread. Saints, to me, I don't know why they're 6-point favorites against anyone, except maybe the Panthers, who they crushed last week. They've been one of the most disappointing teams all year. Derek Carr fighting with receivers, fighting with coaches, supposedly. Offense hasn't been able to get going. I think there's a huge coaching mismatch with Brian Dable and Dennis Allen. I think Wink Martindale's defense with the Giants is going to get after Carr, frustrate him the way they frustrated Jordan Love and a better Packers team. And, I think DeVito gets it done. I mean, I'm not saying he's the savior now or the future Giants starting quarterback, but they got something going there. They're 5-8. I think they might even win the game. I'll say they was, I'm not going to call an outright upset, but I think it's a 3-point game either way, 23-20, something like that. But I just don't believe in the Saints at all. And I think the Giants got a little mojo going here. I think it's more about Giants defense than DeVito, but it's going to be a toss-up game at the end. So 6 points, way too many Giants.
There you go. Well, I have the Stones. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say the Giants win this one outright. The 6 points is crazy. The Saints stink. They are really bad. I know they just had a big win over the Panthers, but they are on a fast track to gifting the Chicago Bears the number 1 overall pick. And you mentioned it. The Saints just look like a team that's an absolute mess with Carr fighting with the offensive line, receivers. Carr isn't a mobile quarterback, so with the amount of pressure that Wink Martindale is going to dial up against Derek Carr, I think he's going to give him fits. And DeVito's been a really fun story. I think he's playing well. Like you said, I'm not saying he's the quarterback of the future, but at the absolute worst, you have a high-end cheap backup, which is always a good thing. But the Giants are hot right now. 6 points is way too much. I understand it's on the road. I know it's in the dome, down there in the Superdome, but I like the Giants to win an ugly one outright, 16-10. As for our game of the week, this should be a good one. The Cowboys are going to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills, slight favorites, 1.5 point favorites in this one. What's your feel?
The Cowboys are actually my best bet of the week. Giants are my second best bet, but for this, we'll save our best bets for later. So I love the Cowboys this week. I like the Bills a lot last week. I was proud of that pick at Kansas City because I always pick Kansas City when they facing a second straight loss. But I just had a feeling the Bills were going to off a bye win that game. And they got a little lucky at the end there, but then again, maybe not. But I just think the Cowboys, to me, they look like a complete team right now. They just crushed the Eagles at home. And they're 10-3, and they're the 2 seeds in first place in NFC East. And I feel like they have something to prove because they're 7-0 at home, and everyone's like, oh, they can't win a road game. They're only 3-3 on the road. They lost to Arizona. So they haven't really had that dominant road win or signature road win. I think they get it here against the Buffalo team that went all out last week. And I think it's a lot to do back-to-back weeks. Even if they lose this game, Buffalo can still get in. They have a favorable schedule. They have the Patriots, Chargers, and Dolphins. I read today that they could even win the division still if the Dolphins slip up. So I don't think it's as desperate a spot for Buffalo as last week was. So that's part of it. I just think Dallas is a better team, and I feel like better team getting points. Sometimes it's that simple. So I'll take the points, and I think Dallas wins.
I agree with you. I think the Cowboys are just, they're so hot right now. They had a great game. And shout out to Buffalo, too. I mean, you were right on that one last week with them, winning that crazy game in Arrowhead. I think this defense is going to give Josh Allen some trouble. I know that ever since they made the change at the offensive coordinator spot to go into Joe Brady, the Bills offense looks more like the Bills offense of old. But Cowboys defense, they get after the quarterback and they give opposing quarterbacks, they make their life hell. And I think we get to see that a little bit in this one. I still think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be relatively close, but Dak Prescott's playing like the MVP. They're rolling right now. It's going to be a fight between them and the Eagles for first place in the NFC East. And I think they roll this week. I'm going to go 27-24. I think it'll be I think it'll be a great game, close game, but I give the slight edge to the Cowboys here, even though it's up there in Buffalo. So, all right, you said you liked the Cowboys and the Giants. I like them a lot too, but let's do another best bet.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers, -3.5 at home against Tampa Bay, Battle of the Bays. I just think the Packers are so typical when you watch the NFL and you pick the games every week. It's so tempting to just fade a team after they let you down. So, I really had the Packers last week. I had a lot of faith and then they lost. So sometimes you go away. But now that they're back home, I think this is a good spot for them to get back to 7-7, stay in the wild card picture. Tampa Bay, give them credit. I mean, they came back against Atlanta, but I'm still not believers. 6-7, 3-1 against the NFC South. 3-4 against everyone else. I think this is a tough spot going to Lambeau in the cold. I think Jordan Love gets back on track. This team was rolling before the Giants game. It's just one of those games. The Giants defense played great. DeVito played great, and tough Monday night on the road. So I'm not going to make too much out of it. I think it's a good spot for the Packers to bounce back. So I'll lay the 3.5.
There you go. I like the Packers a lot this week too. I think that's a great point with the warm weather team going up there to Green Bay is always a tough thing, and I think the Packers bounce back. I'm going to go with the Browns -3 as my best bet. I'm all aboard the Joe Flacco train. I think he's played pretty well the last couple weeks, and that defense is really, really good. They are they arguably the best defense in the league. I think Schwartz does a great job up there, and the Bears are coming into town. Their defense has played really well. For me, I think Justin Fields, this is the kind of defense that I think he could struggle against. I think they'll be able to get after the quarterback a little bit, and it'll be a lower scoring game. I know the Bears are kind of a hot team, so they're a fun pick in this game, but I like the Browns more so for their defense, but I'm also buying into Joe Flacco slinging the rock around a little bit. So I'll take the Browns -3 for my best bet.
All right.
Let's do underdog. Here we go. It's coming. Let me hear it.
Yeah, we'll segue right into my underdog pick. I like the Bears +3 at Cleveland. I think the Bears, to me, are better than most people think. 5-4 after an 0-4 start. Montez Sweat has added a lot to the defense since they acquired him. 3.5 sacks in 4 games. And the big reason I feel like is it's just that Cleveland. I agree. I think Joe Flacco's done a great job. I think Kevin Stefanski is right now. I think he might be the front runner for Coach of the Year for starting quarterbacks and have an 8-5. But they're down 2 offensive tackles. So to me, against Montez Sweat and the Bears defense and the young team playing well, something to play for here. And like you said, earlier you said the Panthers are basically giving them the number 1 pick, so they still have the number 1 pick. So it's not like they're playing for draft positioning. But I just feel that they're a hot team right now, and Justin Fields is playing really well. And I just don't know if Cleveland, they're like an inconsistent team. 1 week they play great, they look great against the Jaguars, and then they almost lost the game. So I like Flacco. I just don't know how long it can last, and I just feel the Bears are hot right now. And I picked them before the year to go to the playoffs, and man, if they didn't blow those 2 games against the Broncos and the Lions, they could be 7-6. And I think they're a better team than most people realize. And and the fact that Cleveland has the 2 offensive tackles out, I'm repeating myself, but yeah, I'll take the Bears. Bears +3.
There we go. All right, we'll take a look next week and see how the head-to-head goes. For my underdog pick, I'm going to go with the Broncos +4.5. They're going up against the Detroit Lions. I've been on the Lions a lot this year, and especially the last few weeks, and they burned me against the Packers and the Bears. They got it for me against the Saints, but I think they've looked a little bit off, even in their 2 most recent wins. They had the crazy comeback win against the Bears, the game the Bears, as you mentioned, Bears probably should have won that one. And the Saints, they let the Saints hang around in what was a tight game. But I think Denver is just playing really, really well right now. One of the hottest teams in the league. Outside the loss to the Texans, they went from 1-5 to 6-5, so 5 straight. They dropped to the Texans, back in the win column, and a dominant win against the Chargers, and now going on the road to Detroit. I don't know if they win the game out. They could win this game outright, but I think it's going to be a field goal game either way. A fun one, 24-21. 27-24, somewhere in that range, but I think the Broncos could actually pull the outright upset also in this one.
Yeah, I took the Lions in the paper, but I agree. It's a tough. I feel like all 3 Saturday games were tough.
Yeah,
I could have went either way on each of them, but I wound up going with all 3 home teams laying the points. But I agree. I think Denver's playing so great, but it's their 3rd straight road games. I don't know if that catches up to them.
Yeah, it's a good point with the road game. All right, let's run through these real quick. Both Joe and I on the Jets getting 9.5 points in Miami. Giants +6 against the Saints down in New Orleans. We got the Cowboys +1.5 up in Buffalo for the game of the week. Best bets, mine is Browns -3, Packers -3.5 for Joe, and we're going head-to-head with the Browns and the Bears. Joe's underdog, Bears +3, and I'm going with the Broncos +4.5. Joe, I appreciate you joining me as always. Good luck this week.
I'm at great job. Thanks.